As we move through life, many of us find ourselves chasing happiness, always seeking the next achievement, the next goal, the next source of joy. But have we ever stopped to ask, what is happiness really? Is it a fleeting emotion, or is it something deeper, something more lasting? Today, let's take a moment to reflect on the meaning of happiness, what it is, where we find it, and how we can embrace it in our daily lives. For many ancient philosophers, happiness was not just about pleasure or satisfaction. Take Aristotle, for example, who believed that true happiness, or eudaimonia, was about living virtuously and fulfilling one's potential. Aristotle suggested that happiness comes from cultivating good habits, what he called virtues, like courage, kindness, and wisdom. To him, happiness wasn't something you could gain in a single moment. Instead, it was the result of living a life in alignment with one's values. But how does this ancient wisdom translate to modern life? Can we find happiness in the hustle and bustle of the 21st century? In today's world, many of us equate happiness with success, possessions, or external achievements. We might think that more money, a better job, or a bigger house will bring us joy. But often when we achieve these things, the happiness they bring is temporary, fleeting. We move on to the next goal, the next desire. In the fast-paced world we live in, perhaps true happiness lies not in the things we accumulate, but in something simpler, in stillness, in being present, in accepting the moment we are in, just as it is. Mindfulness practices, often rooted in Eastern philosophies, teach us the power of being present, to fully experience the now without judgment or distraction. Many people find happiness in these small, quiet moments. A walk in nature, the warmth of a loved one's smile, or the sensation of sunlight on their skin. Perhaps true happiness is less about chasing and more about noticing what is already here. Take a moment to reflect. When was the last time you felt truly happy? Was it during a grand event, or was it in something smaller, quieter? Was it in the laughter shared with a friend, or in the feeling of accomplishment after completing a simple task? Our individual moments of joy can look different for each of us, but one thing remains the same. Happiness often comes when we're fully present in the moment, when we're not thinking of the past or worrying about the future, but just being. The beauty of happiness is that it doesn't have to be complicated. It's not always about big accomplishments or dramatic changes. Sometimes it's as simple as taking a deep breath, as simple as enjoying the quiet after a long day. What if we approached each day with the intention of finding small moments of joy? Not chasing happiness, but inviting it in, through gratitude, through presence, through kindness. So, as we continue on our journey through life, let's remember that happiness isn't something far away, waiting to be found. It's here, in the present moment, in the small, everyday experiences that we often overlook. Where do you find your moments of joy? How can you bring more presence into your life today? As we reflect further on the idea of happiness, it's worth exploring the question of why happiness often feels elusive. We live in a world where we're constantly bombarded with images and messages telling us what we need in order to be happy, whether it's material wealth, social status, or physical perfection. Yet, despite having more of these things than ever before, many of us still feel unfulfilled. Perhaps this is because happiness isn't something that can be bought, achieved, or even pursued. Instead, It might be something that emerges when we stop looking for it outside of ourselves and start cultivating it from within. Think for a moment about the times when you felt at peace, content, or joyful. Were those moments defined by what you had or by what you were experiencing? Often, it's not the external conditions of our lives that determine our happiness, but rather our internal state, our mindset, our perspective, our capacity to be present and grateful. Some might argue that happiness is not something to be achieved, but rather a byproduct of how we choose to engage with the world around us. This shift in thinking, from chasing happiness to inviting it through our attitudes and actions, can be transformative. One of the key aspects of this shift is the practice of gratitude. Studies have shown that people who regularly practice gratitude tend to experience more positive emotions, feel more alive, and even sleep better. Gratitude helps us focus on what we have rather than what we lack, allowing us to find contentment in the present moment. It's a simple yet profound tool for cultivating happiness. Imagine waking up each day, and instead of immediately thinking about what you need to do or achieve, you start by reflecting on what you're grateful for. It might be something small, a warm cup of coffee, the sound of birds outside, or the fact that you have another day to live and experience. Over time, this practice can fundamentally shift your perspective, making happiness something you experience on a more regular basis. Not because your life has changed dramatically, but because you're seeing it through a different lens. This leads us to another important point: the relationship between happiness and acceptance. Often we become unhappy because we resist the reality of our lives. We wish things were different, or we dwell on past regrets and future anxieties. But what if, instead of resisting, we practiced acceptance? Acceptance doesn't mean complacency. It doesn't mean we stop striving for improvement or growth. Rather, it means recognizing and embracing the reality of the present moment without judgment. When we accept life as it is, rather than as we wish it to be, we free ourselves from the burden of constant dissatisfaction. In this sense, acceptance becomes a powerful doorway to happiness. Another layer to this discussion is the concept of connection. Humans are inherently social beings, and much of our happiness is tied to our relationships with others. But it's not just about the quantity of relationships, it's about the quality. Deep, meaningful connections, whether with friends, family, or even nature, can provide a profound sense of fulfillment. In our increasingly digital and disconnected world, it's easy to lose sight of the importance of real human connection. But taking time to nurture these relationships, to listen, to be present, and to show compassion can lead to a deep sense of happiness and belonging. Sometimes, happiness is found not in what we do for ourselves, but in what we give to others. At this point, you might wonder, if happiness is so tied to our internal state, our mindset, and our relationships, is there a role for external circumstances at all? The answer is, of course, yes. Our environment, our health, and our basic needs all play a role in our overall well-being. But as many studies and experiences show, once our basic needs are met, the additional gains in happiness from external achievements or possessions tend to diminish. This is why someone with modest means can be just as happy, if not happier, than someone who is materially wealthy. It's not that external things don't matter, but they matter less than we might think when it comes to long-term sustained happiness. Finally, let's consider the idea that happiness is not a destination, but a journey. It's not something we reach and then hold on to indefinitely. Life is full of ups and downs, and our emotional states will naturally fluctuate. Expecting to be happy all the time can actually lead to disappointment and frustration. Instead, we might approach happiness as something we cultivate moment by moment, appreciating it when it's present and accepting when it's not. In this way, happiness becomes a dynamic, ongoing process, one that is intimately tied to how we live, how we think, and how we engage with the world around us.